I'm taking a closer look at the Soviet portable gramophone's motor. Pretty conventional. Nothing revolutionary here, different. It is pillar and plate constructed motor, similar to you'd find in HMV and so on. And this does appear to be aluminum. I didn't put a magnet to it, but I think it is. Could be steel. Let me get a magnet and see. Where is the magnet? I've got to find it first. What do you know? Yep, that's steel. I don't have it all apart yet. I still got to pull the governor, the gear, the non-return, and all of that stuff. But just wanted to take a look at something interesting I found here. Now, one thing I have noticed working with various products made in the Soviet Union, overall, they did a good job of copying this and that machine to make this. Nothing too alarming, but it's in the small details where they get sloppy, where it's not going to be seen. Look at these three nuts that hold the motor together. You notice anything strange about them? They've been drilled off center, especially this one. Look at that. That's way off center. That is sloppy work. They're not sized very well either. I thought maybe they were an 11 millimeter. No, maybe 7/16, somewhere. Well, it fits both, obviously, but just a little loose. But they work. They keep the motor together. The screws and whatnot seem fine. Don't see anything too different there. But those nuts, though, that shows right there. That would never fly in a Western manufacturing facility. That would definitely catch an inspector's attention. And the lid's a little different, too. If you notice, the little studs, where are they? Right here. That correspond with a slot right there. And of course, when that gets glued on with ancient lubricants, you're not getting that off. So what I did was I just took a screwdriver and very carefully pried it off one of the studs. Pop right off. No problem. And I'll put it looks like the metal sprung back into place anyway. But if not, a few taps with a hammer when I get it bit together and it's back to where it should be. Looks like a black graphite grease in there. Typical. Find that in everything. Not as bad as I had expected. Still a little bit wet, but there wasn't much of it. That's the main spring right there. It looks equivalent to an HMV. I could probably substitute the model 59's, HMV 59's mainspring to this. If I needed to, don't need to. It's got the hook in the middle, pear-shaped hole on the end, same as HMV. I could easily reuse that, just clean it up, it's no problem, it's working. I've already tested this machine. Like HMV, we have the brass gear here. Does not appear to be too badly worn. A little bit, not horrible. Oop. All of this is familiar to anybody who's taken an HMV motor apart or the later Victors and all of that. They're pretty much the same thing. And that is a direct copy, albeit slightly more crude than, from the HMV 102. You can see how the springs are attached there and the weights. Seems to be okay, which is good because I do not have replacement parts. Although it is possible HMV might actually fit this. That arm, friction leather arm, it's familiar to anybody that's worked on HMV. You've seen that before. The weights, which are riveted on. So much better on the old style governors. Everything was screws and nuts and such. And you could take it apart, repair it properly, put it back together, and it wasn't a big deal. These things are a pain in the neck. And there's your fiber gear. That has to be dried off, cleaned off, and kept that way. Your winding gear, non-return spring down there. All looks in pretty good shape. Nothing's rusty, nothing's bent. I don't understand what that pattern is. You see it on the metal here. It's on the top also. It almost looks like from a vise, doesn't it? Like the teeth of a vise. Maybe at some point they clamped it in some device that had a pattern like that on its jaws. Don't know. Like I said before, mentioned before earlier, crude in the small ways. You know, here we can copy the machine, but let's cut corners where we can. Let's, instead of, you know, aluminum, we'll use steel, which in some cases is better anyway. And let's go cheap on the hardware. It's a good time to get rid of those off-center drilled 11 millimeter nothing hex nuts. We'll put them on a phonograph motor. Hey, they work. They work. They just look crude, and they probably figured nobody's going to see this except the state, you know, authorized repair man who maintains these machines, if there was such a person. I'm sure there was. Well, there you go. Just a quick look at the motor before I have it apart, before I clean it up. Just to show the various pieces and how they did it. They're the Soviet twist on things, which really is just a copy, really. Nothing innovative here. They copied somebody else's work. But then they did that in pretty much everything.